everyone, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here with my nerdy weekly roundup. Hi everyone, great to be back. Sorry I wasn't here last week, but it was actually my birthday weekend, so I was off out and about celebrating with family and friends. I had a great time, but unfortunately that did mean I didn't have time to do the roundup. But I'm back, so a few shows to get through as skipped a week. So let's get straight into it. So last time I discussed The Glory, Korean drama, revenge drama, and I was about halfway through. Really enjoying it, and like I say, hope it sort of nailed the landing. So obviously I've finished it, and I'm pleased to say, really good. Part 2 is coming in March, so this isn't a complete story. As I said, they're normally about 16 episodes for a season. This was 2 parts. And everything is absolutely teed up now. I really can't wait for season 2. Moon has continued, obviously, with her revenge plots. The doctor that she befriended, and there's a little bit, obviously, sort of love interest there, but she, hasn't like, because of her how damaged she is and all her scars, she's not really sort of progressed that. But basically, she sort of confides in him what they did to her, and she shows him all her scars, and he's obviously like just mortified and devastated for her, and you can see like how much pain she's been in and still is, sort of emotionally and physically. So he sort of agrees to help her to get the revenge. So then he sort of gets on board with this and basically say he'll do anything to help her. But then what we start seeing with the doctor, which kind of came from nowhere, is he sort of then starts acting out this sort of, well, we're not quite sure if it's happening, not happening, but you sort of see him sort of stab and murder someone. But then it's kind of in his head, and he's got this number that means something to him. And she asked him, that's like, because she's gone to his house, and he's like, you can stay here, or if you need somewhere to go, this is the house code. And she asked him, well, what's the meaning of this number? And he's like, can you ask me something else? And this sort of transpires. So we've now got a sort of a sub storyline going on with the doctor, that his father was murdered. His father was also a surgeon. And in the hospital, he was murdered by a patient. And the patient is now in prison. And this is this prisoner's prison number. And he'd been writing to the Sun and saying, terrible things about how he still fantasizes and laughs about murdering his father and replaying the murder. So he's kind of got, I guess, his own kind of revenge fantasy going on in his head of killing his father's murderer. And his mother basically sees these letters, and she goes to visit him in jail, and he's like got no remorse at all, and say he's sort of laughing in her face, and she's like leave my son alone kind of thing. So you've got this really interesting thing going on with him. And then we go back to Moon, and again, she's sort of moving the pieces around the board. The doctor, I think I'd said previously, had taught her how to play the Asian game Go with the white and black marbles. And because Park, her arch enemy, husband, plays Go. So she's now been able to get close to him by playing Go. So sort of playing in parks and stuff. So she's sort of been playing the game with him, beating him, and it kind of, it comes out that she's also sort of blackmailed one of the governors, so she's now Park's daughter's teacher. So he comes in for like Father's Day. It's like a sort of Father's Day presentation where they come in, they say what their fathers do and all that, so the dads are there. And he then realizes that the person he's been playing Go with is his daughter's teacher, and he's a bit like, and the little girl said, oh, that's mummy's friend. And he's like, really? So he sort of speaks to her about it and says like, did you know who I was, and blah blah blah. And she just confesses, saying like, yeah, I deliberately let go so I could, meet you. And she sort of alludes to him, what happened, or what his wife was like in school. So then he starts speaking to some of her friends, and obviously they're all still terrified of her, but starts speaking to some of her friends, and one of them just sort of spills her guts and saying, what a horrible person, and how they bullied Moon, and before Moon there was another girl who deleted herself because of the constant bullying, but that was like sort of never proved. And it looks like they're actually involved in her death. They might have pushed her rather than she jumped. So this other plot's kind of rolling out. And then on top of that, I think it's again that she discovered that Park's daughter is colorblind, as is the friend from school, the rich guy with the golf course. He's colorblind. So now she's the girl's teacher. She was able to like get a toothbrush, send it to him. He's done DNA tests. He's actually the girl's father, not the husband. So he's making ripples, like wanting to get custody of the daughter, but Korean law is like very different to ours. So just because he's biologically the father doesn't mean he's got any sort of claim to the daughter. And then they basically work out. She sort of left a bit of a breadcrumb trail that Park figures out that Moon's got an apartment that basically overlooks her house. And she goes to the apartment, and when she's in there, obviously there's just a whole sort of revenge board going on with like photos and string and who's this and who's that and all this kind of thing. So she's in there like losing her nut, and then her husband walks in and sees this and is like, I think we need to talk. And that's kind of where it ends. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Like you say, they've got this so we've got this was this girl murdered or not? We've got a sort of revenge plot going on with the doctor, and he's now helping her. We've then got the husband who's found out that his wife's actually a very nasty piece of work, and hanging over that is that he's not the father of the daughter, but he doesn't know yet. So as I say, all this is completely teed up for part 2 in March, and how this is all going to play out. So yeah, I really enjoyed The Glory. Go check it out. It is dubbed into English if you're not a big one for subtitles. It's completely watchable. I mean, I watch a lot of the Korean stuff dubbed because I don't always have time to sort of just sit and read the screen. I've got other things going on, or so I can kind of listen to it. But it's just a great show. Like really, just sort of sit down and watch it. But if you're just not into subtitles, you can watch the dub version. So yeah, go check out The Glory. Absolutely loved it. So obviously, I guess the big one that everybody's been talking about, The Last of Us. I will say I'm reviewing this as a complete normie. I've not played the game. I'm not really, even though I do own a PS5, it's more for the 4K DVD player than any gameplay. I am kind of hopeless. I love it. I love playing games, but I'm just really bad at it. But the only person that's worse than me probably is Gary Nerdrotic. I don't know if you've been watching him playing Witcher 3. I'm kind of a bit on a par with that, but slightly better. I think I can walk through doors. So anyway, I digress. But yeah, so just the point is that, yeah, I don't have, I mean, obviously I know a bit about the story just through, YouTube channels and the game, and we all know the Last of Us 2 goes completely off a cliff and woke-tastic. So it's a bit of an interesting one to watch in terms of season 1. We know the first game was great. Potentially the story then, if it follows the source material, is going to be great. But you just know if they're going to follow the Last of Us 2 game, season 2 is going to be an absolute dumpster fire. So I guess everybody's kind of hoping that they don't make The Last of Us 2 season 2. I don't know. I mean, I guess like Pedro Pascal, would he only sign up for 1 season? I guess if they paid him enough, who knows? But we'll, I guess, have to wait and see. So In terms of episode 1, I enjoyed it. I did actually like it. I wasn't sure whether I was going to, and again, a little bit, is it going to be, and again, I've seen quite mixed views on the opening, and was it a bit bloated? And I think from a normie perspective, which is the only way I can call it, I thought it was good. It did really sort of set up the world, the relationship with the daughter and her dad. That he single father, he's got his own business, he works incredibly hard. I mean, he's like literally gone to work at 7:30, gets home at 10 o'clock at night, even though it's his birthday. So he's always a bit preoccupied. He clearly adores his daughter. He's not like he's a neglected father, which is really nice to see. He's not a bad dad trope. He's just got his business and he's trying to take care of her, but that sort of he's a bit forgetful. So she sort of like teases him a bit about that, and like, you got your t-shirt on inside out, Dad. And I think some people kind of took it that he was a bit of a dumbass and she's having to mother him kind of thing. I didn't take it that way. I think it's they're obviously very, very close. She adores her dad. And it's sort of a bit of playful banter, and there is a little bit of, you forget your head if it wasn't screwed on, Dad, kind of thing. But, when it hits the fan, the relationship flips. She's a scared little girl, daughter. And he's like protective dad, straight in there, no nonsense. He wasn't falling apart like an idiot going, he was completely, this monster's tearing towards my daughter. I'm going to take it out. And he does. And even, when they're in the van and the family's at the side of the road, and he's like, oh, we should pull over. And he was like, no, we're just going to keep going, rightly or wrongly, who knows what you do in that situation. But his priority was just, I need to protect my family. Let's keep going. So I actually really enjoyed the opening and the bit sort of in the 60s with John Hannah. I don't know, like such a great actor like John Hannah done such a small thing. So whether he'll crop up again, or I don't know, he's involved in the show somehow, or he done it as a favor, I don't know. But it's that whole bit at the beginning about fungus and how it works and how it can take over the brain, sort of just laying that seed, that foundation. So we sort of have the world imploding, people turning into these monsters, not really zombies, but taken over by this fungus, and planes crashing, and seeing his daughter killed really early on. So they've kind of built up this little world, and him and his daughter, and is ripped out from under us as viewers. I mean, I did know that the daughter dies, because that's kind of the crux of it, and that's why he has the relationship he does with Ellie, like through the game. So then it jumps like, say, 20 years in the future. Now, the fungus that's infecting people, whether that seems to have an effect on concrete, I don't know, but it seems to be an awful lot of decay just for 20 years. It looks more like 100 years has passed, but hey, maybe that's how they built the game. I don't know. But in terms of, the acting was very good. The lady that plays Tess, she was in Fringe, one of the only good things JJ's ever made. I used to love Fringe. And I think she's been in Mindhunter as well. So she was really good. And again, she was kind of realistic. She was very, okay, I'm in trouble. Let's use this, rather than having this woman taking on guys like 3 times her size and winning. She was using her brain to get out of situations. Let's negotiate, let's sort this, let's see how it plays out. And I thought that was very realistic, very sensible, and sort of shows, her character, her dynamic. She did get beaten up, she did look bad, but it wasn't all like sort of sass and all the normal nonsense that we get these days. So I thought that was great. I think there's a little bit of Joel's character sort of sitting on the sidelines a little bit, and there's lots of things going on. You don't really get the feel that he's in charge or driving things forward. There's all these other people around him that seem to be making all the decisions. So that's a little bit, he's on screen and has to be at least 3 or 4 women around him. But I don't think I took any of this episode like being particularly like woke or intersectional. I did enjoy it. I think it was a little bit slow in places, but again, it's the same criticism I had for House of the Dragon, and look how that panned out. Again, when you're trying to do the first episode and you're trying world build and you're trying to introduce characters, it can sometimes be a little bit, stodgy in places. But overall, I really did enjoy the episode. I think, we're not really seeing anything new that we haven't seen in like Walking Dead and things like that. But the writing was definitely good. The acting was good. The only thing I'm not really taken to at the moment is the Bella Ramsey, the girl plays Ellie. She just felt a bit forced, a bit jarring to me, with all the, FUs and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, obviously she's grown up in a apocalyptic world, if I could say it. And you wouldn't necessarily have the the standards, or you'd speak the way you would if you weren't in that kind of environment. But she just felt a bit of the weak link in the chain in terms of the acting. But it may say just be the dialogue that she had. It was all just basically ag and aggression and F off and all this kind of thing. So I'm hoping as the season goes along that actually we get to see a bit of character from her, and maybe her acting's better than is come across in the first episode. But yeah, that was really only kind of for me is her and how she's currently playing the character. But yeah, hopefully there's a bit more sort of substance to it. And at the end where you see like Joel sort of having this sort of flashback to his daughter and beating the crap out of that guy. he's not a cuck, that's for sure. So as much as I got a little bit of concerns that he's a little bit pushed to the side and all the women are making all the decisions, he was, at the end of the episode, he was like pounding on that dude. And basically you think he's like punched him to death, quite it looks like. So there is a bit of like toxic male alert, but no, I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second episode. Yeah, I mean, I think it's 10 episodes, so there's a long way to go, a long time for it to go off a cliff. But I can only judge the first episode, so I'm intrigued by it. Like I say, I've never played the game, so I don't know enough about it as to where the story goes. Obviously, you've got Ellie, who seems to have been bitten by one of these things, but is now immune. So I guess she's potentially a cure for everybody, or some sort of vaccination that you can't get infected, even if you can't cure it. So that's why she's important. Which again is a bit of a trope that we see, the girl who's the key to everything. But if it's done right, if it's done well, it could still be a really enjoyable series. Again, I guess the big thing hanging over his head is like, even if season 1's great, where are they going to go with season 2 if they make The Last of Us 2? So is it worth investing in? I know one and done, and if it's good, it's worth the watch. So I think I'll stick with it for now. Hopefully episode 2 is as good as episode 1. See where it goes. Hunters season 2. This caught me completely off guard. I watched Hunters season 1, obviously, which came out a couple of years ago now. Al Pacino, is it Logan? The guy that played Percy Jackson. And it was set in the 70s. And it was all around sort of Nazi hunting. So Al Pacino is a survivor of the camps, and he's got a team that track down Nazis. And Logan's character, his grandmother's he's just been murdered, and this is when he finds out that she was a Nazi hunter, and was sort of working with Al Pacino, and it's sort of kind of like a bit of a whodunit season 1 as to why. So she must have been close to finding quite an important senior Nazi, and that's why she got murdered. And it's the whole season's like, who was she on to? Who killed her? And it's really, really good acting, great story. and a good twist at the end. So I won't go into that if you haven't seen season 1, and I'll try not to give away spoilers season 2. But yeah, so this came out a couple of years ago. Really enjoyed it, and I just sat down. This is on Amazon Prime, put on Prime, and Hunters season 2, just boom, there. I hadn't seen any publicity for it. I hadn't seen any, because normally they put things on Twitter that this is coming. I literally not advertised at all that I'd seen, and it was just like that. And I was like, oh, brilliant! Watch this. So season 2 was good. I did enjoy it, but season 2 is much more fantasyful, because it's like the first season, could have absolutely happened. We knew there was like Simon Wiesenthal, there were the Nazi hunters. It was all kind of obviously a little bit fantasy, but could have happened. Season 2 was, the whole premise is that Hitler actually didn't kill himself. He escaped to South America. And obviously these rumors have been going around for forever. I don't know if you ever saw Hunting Hitler on the History Channel. Oh, I love that show. It's so cheesily bad. It's brilliant. Got a group of ex-CIA people and ex-Marines and ex-fugitive hunters, and they go through declassified files. And it's like in the declassified files from the CIA, MI6, FBI, there's all these reports of Hitler being seen in South America, that Martin Bormann escaped, and they interview this girl who was adopted. She says and he was supposedly died in Berlin. And then later on, his bones were found in Germany in the 70s, but they were covered in this clay that you can only get in South America, which kind of proves he was in South America before he died of stomach cancer. And then they shipped the bones back to try and cover it up. So there's a lot of evidence that Hitler didn't die in the bunker, that he potentially left like a week before, flew out. So this is kind of building on those rumors, but do check out Hunting Hitler. The first 2 seasons actually are on Prime as well. The 3rd season you have to buy, but I'm sure it'll be on Prime soon. It's so like cheesily and dun dun dun, but you got to watch it. I got completely sucked into this show. It's great. So anyway, back to Hunters. So this whole premise is that they're still obviously tracking down the Nazis. Everybody's kind of moved on, and the group of hunters is kind of split up for reasons that we find out in season 2. That something they were on a mission and something went very badly wrong, and they kind of but then they're tracking down, obviously one of them's tracking down a Nazi, and he gives information to say, look, if you don't kill me, I can lead you to Hitler. And they're all like, what? And they basically sort of sound this out and look at it, and it comes like, yeah, like Hitler did escape. So the band gets back together to go track down Hitler and Ava. So this one's a lot more kind of out there, but it was still very, very good. The acting is absolutely spot on. There's one girl in it. Oh gosh, she's quite a famous actress, sort of back in the 80s and 90s, and I just couldn't work out what accent she was supposed to have. I think it was supposed to be a British accent, but that was a little bit jarring. That's the only thing I will say. I was a little bit like, let me just find her name. Bear with me a second. It was like, because you'd absolutely know her. There we go. Let's have a look at the cast. Jennifer Jason Leigh, of course. So yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Very strange accent. I was like, I don't know if she was supposed to, because she sort of says that she spent time in the UK, but obviously I think she was originally from like Germany or Austria or something. So whether she's supposed to have this sort of German British hybrid accent, I really don't know. it was very, very strange and a little bit distracting at times. So it's just like, what is that? What is she trying to say? But overall, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I don't know if, I was quite a big fan of Robert Harris books like Fatherland, which again was like a story that Hitler didn't die and he won the war. And there was this like big secret. Great book. Go read it. It was turned into a film, I think, with Rutger Hauer years ago, but the book is far better. So and again, if anybody checked out, The Man in the High Castle. So there's quite a few things with alternative sort of histories, and Hitler survived or Hitler escaped. So it was done really well. It wasn't like so out there ridiculous. So you're like, so I think a lot of it was kind of based on, say, the rumors and the actual declassified files about how he got out of Germany and South America, and the hub and the network around him, and the other Nazis that survived. They do actually catch Hitler. Spoiler, sorry. And then he kind of goes on trial. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff going on. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Al Pacino's in this as well. Again, and he's great in it. Absolutely great in it. Just sort of this old Jewish guy. Yeah, brilliant. And again, it kind of comes a bit full circle with season 1. And again, his grandmother's death. So we do find out what happened at the end of season 1, but it's kind of an extra bit of backstory, and it all kind of loops around, and sort of season 1 and 2 coming together. So really well done. So great acting. So yeah, Al Pacino, and let me get the guy's name right. Bless him. Logan Lerman. Yes, strange name. Loved him as Percy Jackson though. But he's all grown up now. So yeah, definitely go check out Hunters, season 1 and 2 if you haven't already. So if you like Man in the High Castle, any kind of it's all set between like sort of 75 and 79. So if you love that sort of period in history, got some great afros going on. It's the attention to detail is amazing. It's really, really good. So yeah, go check that out. Now, the last thing I just want to talk about, which I'm a bit late to the party on this one. This has been out quite a while. It's on the Disney Channel, called Dopesick, starring Michael Keaton. And it's one of those ones I'd seen it on there. I think, I need to get around to watching that. And again, I love like sort of true crimes, or sort of the documentaries that you get about Dr. Death and all those kind of real sort of how did this person get away with this for so long kind of thing. So this is dramatization. And it's based on real events, but I think the characters in it are made up, because there was nothing that came up on the screen to say this is what happened to this person or this is what happened to that person, which you often get in real dramas. But so one element is based on a true thing that happened, but I think the characters around it are sort of based on, but they're not actual real people, I don't think. So this is all around back in the 90s through to the mid-noughts. I think most people have heard of like Oxy or Oxycontin, so opioids. And there was a big explosion in America, and this explains why, of oxy addiction. And this is a story basically of the big pharma company that created it, marketed it as for moderate to severe pain, but less than 1% of patients get addicted. And obviously a lot of people avoid opiates, quite rightly. They're used in extreme cases when there's literally nothing else they can give the patient, because they are highly addictive. So it starts off, they start marketing this drug, and obviously the way medicine and medical and the FDA works in America is completely different to the UK, because we have the NHS, so our patient records are all linked. So you have a doctor, you see that doctor, or a doctor practice. You can't, In emergencies, if you're in another town, you could go to a doctor in an emergency, but they can basically see your records, and basically you just can't walk in and out of different doctors and get prescriptions like you can in America. But anyway, so this pharmaceutical company have created this drug. They're marketing as non-addictive or rarely addictive, and the sales team go out and start selling it to doctors. They do it in various like sort of 10, 20, 40, 80 milligrams. And it's supposed to last 12 hours. It has this sort of slow release coating on it, so you don't get these sort of spikes which kind of cause the addiction. And then so you've got Michael Keaton's he's a doctor in a mining town, like a small town, and they're like one of the first towns to trial this. And initially, like a lot of the doctors, they're quite wary. They're like, oh, opioids. I'm like, and they're like, oh, it's not addictive. It's great. Blah blah blah. So he agrees to trial it. And one of the characters, a young girl, she works in the mines, and there's an accident, and she hurts her back. And basically, she can't afford to take time off work. She's worried if she's off, I think she doesn't get paid, and she could get, dismissed. So he subscribes this oxy, sort of 10 milligrams, and initially it's amazing. And then it's same for another patient who's had trouble with his shoulder forever. They've tried everything, and initially it's like the wonder drug. The pain goes. Let's say it's supposed to last 12 hours, and then the girl wakes up in the middle of the night in absolute agony after about sort of 8 hours, 10 hours. And the reports of this not lasting 12 hours gets fed back to the pharma company. So they come up with a condition called breakthrough pain. So basically, for the say it lasts 12 hours, the regulations in America is that only as long as 50% of the time it does, they can say that it does, even though 50% of other people it doesn't last that long. So they basically make up this condition, breakthrough pain, and just tell the doctors just double the dose. So we're already on a slippery slope. So these people are getting through breakthrough pain, and they've just upped the dose. Then obviously, as people's tolerances start building up, it's not lasting as long. So then they come up with another condition, and then they start saying, oh, you can, because you start off on 10 milligrams, but then like saying to doctors, actually, you can like do it on an individual basis and work out what that person should start on. And the doctor has a car accident. Michael Keaton has a car accident, and he breaks his ribs. And in the hospital, they prescribe him oxy, starting at 20 milligrams. So before you know it, basically, time's passed. He's now addicted to oxy. Most of his town, the patient's addicted to oxy. You got kids in school addicted to it, and then they basically they work out that if you snort it or inject it, obviously it gets into your system quicker. And the pharma companies are just completely dismissing all these reports coming in. Obviously, you're starting to get people ODing. And they're just like, oh, well, they're not using it as prescribed. It's just junkies. They don't, we can't be held responsible for people abusing our product. And then like the sort of government and certain district attorneys start seeing these cases and start investigating and working with drug agencies. But because it's a legally prescribed drug, there's limited rules and things that they can do. It's not like a drug dealer to go after. And just really highlights all a lot of corruption and how the big pharma industry works in America, that money talks. Like I say, this goes on for about a decade, and obviously crime's going through the roof, that pharmacies just keep getting broken into, and literally all they take is the oxy. They don't take anything else. Break-ins, robberies, violent crimes all going up, overdoses are going up, and then a lot of these people then start switching to heroin, end up heroin addicts because it's cheaper than oxy. And given it's all based on, like, say, true events, and the fact that I think oxy is still a prescription drug in America, albeit it's labeled and marked, correctly now that it's only for acute pain and blah, blah. But the fact this drug is still allowed to be prescribed just blows my mind. but great acting. I think it's about 8 episodes. And just watching these people going on these journeys, and just, you know, the doctor, Michael Keaton, basically ends up losing his medical license. His whole world falls apart. You know, he nearly kills a patient because he's off his drawn on oxy. You know, some of the people, their lives are just ruined, and say they end up ODing. It's really, you know, a moving story, and it was done so well, written really well. It's lots of sort of backwards and forwards. So it's all about the pharma company, and they end up paying something like 600 million in compensation or something like that. And the family, the pharma company basically goes into bankruptcy. But again, the way bankruptcy rules work in America, like, it didn't actually touch the family fortune. You know, the billionaires, none of them went to court. None of them were even, you know, had any charges brought against them. You know, the guy that owns the company was friends with Giuliani, who was the mayor of New York. So it just shows this massive corrupt. The guy at the FDA who approved their claims that it wasn't addictive, helped them word it, then leaves the FDA once he's approved it all to take a job with them, being paid like $400,000 a year. And then other people at the FDA see this, so nobody really wants to go against this company, because once they've done their tenure at the FDA, they know there's a job waiting for them at the pharma company. It's just so corrupt and just bonkers. You know, you've got these politicians who, you know, start making waves because there's all these crime rates in their town, and then the next thing you know, they're working for them on an extortionate salary, and everything's just covered up, where you and you know, and the casualties and the bodies are piling up, and nobody cares because it's all about profit. So a really, really interesting drama, say, sort of based on real events, and heartbreaking in places. You know, you just see the deterioration of some of these characters and how their lives just absolutely spiraled. Because what you learn is that opioids actually change your brain chemistry, and the reason it's called dope sick is like, this is the term for when your brain chemistry gets changed. When you don't get the drug, your body goes into immense amounts of pain, like off the scale amounts of pain, and your brain thinks you're going to die. And it's like, basically, if you don't get this drug, you're going to die. But obviously, you take this drug, you know, you can OD, you can die. And this state is called dope sick, and like, people will do anything to get that next hit. So Michael Keaton's brilliant in it, and lots of things. So's the supporting cast. Yeah, I mean, I like just I think I watched it over like 2 days, but I was just like, oh, next episode. So yeah, so as I said, a bit late to the party, but if you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus. It's really, really good. So do go check that out. So that was like the sort of the big shows. There's a couple of honorable mention, I guess. When I do the Spacebook, Ian on there, hi Ian, had recommended the Extraordinary Attorney Woo, I think it's called, another Korean show about Attorney Woo. She's like the first autistic lawyer ever appointed in Korea. So obviously she has a number of challenges because she's autistic. And you know, she sort of has her highest pass rates ever for the bar. She just has like, you know, she's just outperformed everybody at law school, but obviously can't get a job because of her autism. You find out that basically it's just her and her dad, and for part of the show you don't even know who her mum is, but then it sort of comes out later on who her mum is. But he was a trainee lawyer, but had to give it up to look after Woo, especially with her autism. And now he runs a gimbap shop, which is like Korean sushi, runs his own little restaurant. So he calls in a favor with someone he went to law school with before he dropped out, and she basically gets Attorney Woo a job. And it's her sort of, watching her sort of overcoming her autism, but learning how to function in the workplace, and she starts making friends. And as she goes through the cases, and obviously with that autistic mind, she kind of sees things or clicks into things that you wouldn't necessarily think in that way. She sort of joins the dots in a different way. And as obviously they go through like different cases all season. And some of them work out, some of them don't. But again, very well acted. The lady that plays Attorney Woo is amazing. She does it really, really well. And I think you could watch it and say this is woke AF because you've got this autistic lawyer, you've got cases around disability, and there's one case where the girl's is like 27, but she's kind of got a mental age of like 13, 14. She's dating a guy who's normal mental age, and they have sex, and then it's like, well, is that consensual? Isn't it consensual? And because if she's got a mental age of 13, and he goes to court over this, and so there's lots of kind of storylines where you kind of go, but as ever with Asian dramas, it's done really well, and it's almost like, well, it just is this person, it just is, and it's not, disability isn't focused in on, and it's not all about, it's just done in a really, really good way. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, I have to say. I think again, 16 episodes, been renewed for a season 2, which I'm really looking forward to. But it's just something a little bit different. And again, because of her autism, she's got this thing about whales and sort of dolphins and things, and she can't help but just talk about them, and and she sort of sees them. So when she's sort of thinking or figuring something out, she'll just see this like humpback whale in the air, or a killer whale or whatever. It's all a bit surreal, but it's kind of sort of demonstrating how her mind works. So yeah, that was really good fun, actually. Like I say, it's quite light-hearted but serious in places, and just really, really well done. So thank you, Ian, for recommending that. I really enjoyed it. So I mean, there's just so much Korean dramas on Netflix at the moment. I think they're kind of sort of saying they're going all in, because let's face it, they don't really have a lot of decent content, and the only things they do seem to have that are good are the Korean dramas and Japanese or Asian dramas. As I discussed at Christmas, or just after Christmas, Alice in Borderland, which is Japanese, which was absolutely brilliant. Obviously, we're going to get into Squid Game season 2 shortly this year, I think, maybe next year. Fingers crossed on that one. Yeah, and it's quite interesting because obviously how the algorithm works. I used to have to, you had to sort of trawl through to find these stuff. Now, when I go onto my Netflix page, everything is just Korean Asian dramas, and then somewhere down the bottom it's like everything else. So now I have to trawl through to find anything that's kind of Western, because everything's just taken up with Korean dramas, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, because a lot of them are much more entertaining. Some of them are dubbed, a lot of them aren't. So that's something that sometimes it takes a bit, like I say, it takes a bit longer, because I've got to sit down and just pay attention and read. I can't be doing other things, and which is probably a good thing. I can't be on my phone. I've got to pay attention because I've got to read the subtitles. So, but yeah, really interesting. And yeah, Netflix kind of said, yeah, we're going to put even more Asian content on. So I think there's a danger that you can get a little bit overload. And I don't think Netflix should be putting all their eggs in one basket and banking on this to save the channel, because I think other channels will start getting their own. I mean, you're already sort of seeing it on some of the other channels, that the Asian stuff sort of creeping in, and yeah, it's probably a selling point at the moment, but how sustainable that is, I don't know. Absolutely furious they cancelled 1899. I think I mentioned that last time. Unbelievable. But the other CEO of Netflix has been sacked, so Hopefully we might get some good, I think because on the back of The Witcher and the dumpster fires they've had there and how much money they've spent. So, cancelling good shows, making this bloody Witcher nonsense, just bad publicity for them all the way around. So hopefully Netflix gets their butt in gear and we start getting a good mixture of content. Like I say, quite happy there's a lot of Asian content on there, but let's mix it up. And if they're making something good, or if you're gonna buy a show that needs to run 3 seasons, maybe make the 3 seasons. Anywho, Netflix, Disney, they just drive you insane, and Amazon. You just think, how hard can it be? And they just make such bad choices. Anyway, that's it. A lot to go. A lot of shows there. As ever, please do like, share, and subscribe. Really makes a difference. And let me know, what do you think about these Korean dramas? Have you watched any? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you think there's too many of them now? Like, say, we're getting a bit saturation point. I don't know. Quite now, I'm still enjoying them, but 12 months' time, if all I'm constantly reviewing these, I have to change my channel to Atomic Korean Blonde, I think, if that's all the decent TV that we've got. But anyway, so let me know in the comments, or if there's a show you want me to review, pop it in and I'll take a look. So have a great week. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.